Trucker Dump, episode 170. In this week's show, we discuss Heartland Express buying CFI, 6 pre- and post-trip inspection myths, another case the Supreme Court ignored, preparing for automated trucks, new services for truckers, and much, much more. We've also got some follow-up on that AB5 video from the OOIDA Foundation, and I have yet another idiot commenting on my tailgating article. This episode of Trucker Dump is sponsored by Porter Freight Funding. You can learn more at porterfreightfunding.com/truckerdump. That's all one word. Or give them a call at 205-397-0934.
Welcome to Trucker Dump, where you'll get one driver's insights and sometimes humorous views of truck driving and the trucking industry, and pretty much anything else he feels like dumping on you. This podcast is brought to you by AboutTruckDriving.com. Resources to help you understand the world of truck driving through the use of stories and a pathetic attempt at humor.
Hey, Todd McCann here. Hope you are having a fabulous day. There I go again with the fabulous. Fabulous. Well, I am having a pretty good week. Not that you care one bit, but, last week kind of sucked, so this week is much, much better, although I'm getting home really, really late on Sunday, but it is what it is. Got to make that money. So, for those of you interested, my name is Todd McCann. I'll be your host of this here podcast. I am a 25-year truck driver. The first 22 of those were over the road with the Evil Overlord, who is my wife and ex-co-driver. And the last 3 years or so, I have been in the LTL industry and loving it. More importantly, I would like you to know that I am an expert in this industry. I have written 2 trucking ebooks. One is called How to Find a Great Truck Driving Job, and the other is Trucking Life. Okay, I'm not an expert, but you're supposed to say that, right? That way everyone believes everything you say. Good thing you know me better than that. That is, if you've listened to the podcast at all, you know me better than don't believe a word I say. I'm wrong a lot of times. So you're thinking, you new people are thinking, so why are we here? I don't know. Good question. But by the way, you can find both of those ebooks at abouttruckdriving.com. If you order both of those at the same time through the website only, you will get a 25% discount on that. I would like to tell you that's a limited time offer, but that would be a big fat lie. But anyway, 25% off is only $14.98. Even better, Trucking Life includes a 9.25 hour audio book, so you can just listen to the whole darn thing. If you're into self-punishment. Anyway. So, what's new with me, you ask? You didn't? Well, I'm going to tell you anyway. I had a first happen to me this week. As many of you know, I am an LTL driver, and that means I stay at hotels throughout the week. And I had a first happen. I'm laying there in bed. Thankfully, I had gotten in bed really early that morning and had gotten up, in case they called me back out on my 10 hours, and I wanted to be fully rested. And I thought, well, I'll just get up, work on the podcast before I have to go to work if they don't call me in early. So I'm thankfully, of all mornings to me, I'm laying there about 3 p.m. And, I'm looking on the phone, and I'm looking through the trucking news, thinking, looking for anything new to talk about. And I start hearing this sound. And it's like, and I'm like, what in God's name is that? So I got up out of bed and went over to my door and stuck my head out the door. And about 3 doors down from me, there was someone playing a trumpet in the hotel. Yes, a trumpet. I couldn't believe it. I laid there for a little while thinking, okay, this can't go on for very much longer. But, it did. It just kept going. Only it wasn't just that same little... It was, they started playing like songs and, passages, and they would practice them over and over again. Now, they weren't just blowing with all their heart, I could tell that, but they were blowing a trumpet in a freaking hotel. People, you just don't do that. That's not cool. Now, granted, I understand most people do not think anybody is sleeping at 3 p.m, but, Despite that, it's rude. I don't go into a hotel room and crank the TV or a stereo or anything like that. That's not the place to be obnoxious. It's a hotel. Be a decent human being. You know, people are trying to sleep. For the record, I did call down to the desk and tell them that there were drivers up here trying to sleep and asked them if they had any idea that there was someone playing a trumpet up there. And she said, "A what?" Yeah, she was a little confused too. But actually, about 10 minutes later, it did stop. And I got up and recorded because I was honestly wondering how I'm going to do this with a trumpet, coming through the microphone. That would have been unique for sure. So that happened. Something else interesting happened last week. The Evil Overlord found herself in a wreck. Now, it was not her fault. She got T-boned. Here's the strange thing. You're just not going to believe this. Some people, that's all I have to say. Okay, first, she's got like a 2021, I think. Yeah, it's either 2021 or 2022. I think it's a 2021 Toyota Highlander sport model. Really nice. Love it. It's white, got black trim, looks great. Super fancy. Just what she needs. Anyway, she's pulling out across a busy street in Joplin. And, she's got to cross both lanes and get in. This is a 4-lane with the middle center turn lane. So she has to cross both lanes, to get over and head the way she's going to go. And just about that time, a light let loose. And so she punched it and she got out in front of those cars. Well, she naturally took the inside lane because that's what you're supposed to do. And she looks down the way and there is a car sitting there with their right turn signal on facing the same direction as her. So naturally, what do you think? Yeah, same thing she thought. That person couldn't get out into that lane. They're sitting in the merge lane and not the merge lane. Shouldn't call it a merge lane because it's a turning lane. Thought she was going to just pull out into just trying to get out onto the roadway. So naturally, the Evil Overlord scoots over into the right-hand lane to let her, and the lady promptly turns right and T-bones the Evil Overlord. So if you're picturing this in your mind, you're probably thinking like me, what the heck? When I heard this story, I was like, what, who makes a right-hand turn from the center turn lane? Center turn lanes are only for left-hand turns. Actually, in Missouri, there is a law that says you cannot even use that turn lane for merging purposes, like, to get yourself out into traffic and then sit there and wait to get out on the road. So this woman kept telling, actually, it was nice and pleasant. Nobody got pissed at each other, which is amazing for the Evil Overlord might have a temper sometimes. Let's just say that. But she was very cool about all this. And, the lady was older and she didn't apologize. She just kept saying, I had my turn signal on. And she'd say, yes, but I thought I wasn't expecting you to turn across in front, trying to turn across and go into the business across from me. Yep, but I had my turn signal on, she kept saying. Okay, you had your turn signal on. Great. Well, actually, the Evil Overlord said the cop was kind of grinning when she kept saying it to him because, the cop knew she was wrong. Anyway, Evil Overlord got a call from the insurance agent, the lady's insurance agent, about a week later, and she was saying, yep, we're sorry about that. We told her that was the illegal move, and she got pissed at us and told us we were wrong. She really thought she had every right to be turning from the center lane, taking a right turn across 2 lanes of traffic. I don't know how anybody gets through life not knowing that is illegal, but apparently it happens. So anyway, the Evil Overlord took the car in. Looks like the estimate's going to be about $8,800, possibly more if they get down in there and find stuff. It messed it up pretty bad. She's fine. No one was injured. The only thing I told her is you need to keep your sister out of the car because she had a wreck with her sister in the car this time. And the last time she had damage to this same car was a mower kicked up a giant rock and dented our door really bad. And guess who was in the car? Yeah, the Evil Overlord's sister. That woman needs to get the heck out of my car. So anyway, just a couple of neat little stories there. I don't know if you care about any of that stuff. If not, you've already skipped over it. And that is just fine too. So with that, let's get started with the news. I'll give you one guess where we start. And now, the moment you've all been waiting for. Brought to you by OverdriveOnline.com. Kenworth recalling certain T680 trucks for potential fuel tank issue. Yep, a recall. This is happening to approximately 586 2022 and 2023 Kenworth T680s. This is an issue with the fuel tank. Now get this. Apparently, mud flaps on the affected trucks could contact the fuel tank while the vehicle is in motion, creating wear on the fuel tank over time, and that could possibly cause a leak. What are these fuel tanks made of? Cardboard? I mean, yeah, I know over time, rubber rubbing against aluminum, I suppose, can wear down, but boy, how long would that take, really? I don't know. Apparently, they think it's a problem, though. So, anyway, they are going to fix this problem free of charge. They will contact you if you are affected by this by October 3rd. And all they're really going to do is put what they call an anti-sail device on the mud flap to keep it from flapping around. I'm guessing that's just that metal bracket that goes over the top of the outside of the mud flap. But hey, what do I know? So anyway, just thought I would bring you your weekly fix of recalls. For the recall number and the phone number you can call about this, check out overdriveonline.com. And speaking of Kenworth, they've got something new for us. Let's head on over to overdriveonline.com for this one. Kenworth adds lane keeping assist as option on Class 8 trucks. Now, apparently this lane keeping assist was first introduced with the Kenworth T680 Next Generation last year, and now they are offering it on not only the T680, but also the T880 and the W990 trucks. Now, that is an option you have to order, and it comes also with the rest of the Bendix Fusion Advanced Driver Assistance System. Now, I've got this on my truck, the Peterbilt that I drive. Well, I don't have the lane assist. I have all the other stuff that is included with it, the adaptive cruise control, the lane departure warning, autonomous emergency braking, or AEB, and side option detection. Now, for the most part, I don't mind these technologies. The lane departure warning certainly does let you know, when you cross the line. Not that I ever do that. The adaptive cruise control is nice and handy, especially when you're going through like construction zones. Now, some would say, take your cruise off in the construction zone. But honestly, if you have the cruise control on and trucks are slowing down in front of you, it will use this autonomous emergency braking, sometimes a little bit too hard. And, it will just slow you down if you come up on it suddenly. But if, of course, typically I'm hitting my brakes, I see that way in advance, so that doesn't happen very often. But if you are just slowly coming up onto a slower area, it's slowed down from 65 or 70 to, a 45 mile an hour zone, and everybody's just slowing down gradually, your adaptive cruise control will do a nice job of keeping you a fair distance behind the vehicle in front of you. I don't mind it too much. You do have to be, you do have to watch out ahead of you to make sure that you're not coming up on somebody too fast, because that emergency braking will scare the holy crap out of you. And quite honestly, it does every once in a while, even when it sees some imaginary ghost crossing the road in the middle of the night. So it has its issues, but honestly, that would not keep me from wanting this lane keeping assist. We have this feature on the Evil Overlord's Toyota Highlander, and I've tried it out, and it works pretty darn good. And anything that could help a little bit. It's not like it's steering for you or anything. It's a slight little nudge. You have to keep your hand on the wheel, and I imagine that's the same way with this Kenworth. It's, you're just going to have to keep a hand on the wheel, and if you happen to look away and start veering towards the edge a little bit, you're futzing around with something in the truck, which of course we shouldn't be doing, but we all do it, right? And, you're reaching over for your bag of chips. Not that you should have chips beside you either, but of course we all do it. And, you reach over for 1 second, you take your eye off the road, and the wheel just slightly nudges it right back into position. It's really not that big of a deal. Now, it does say also that this lane keeping assist also includes torque assisted steering, which I don't know what that is. It says it provides additional torque to the steering column, helping to reduce driver fatigue. Yeah, not familiar with that one at all. If you've got that on your truck, please let me know how that works for you. The lane keeping assist, the torque assisted steering, all this adaptive cruise control, lane departure warning, autonomous braking, side object detection. Tell me your stories. Has anything ever gone wrong for it? Has it ever totally saved your bacon? Send me an email at truckerdump@gmail.com. Or better yet, send me an audio comment. Just whip out your phone, get out your voice memo app, turn the truck off so it's nice and quiet. Give me a quick little, 3-minute essay on what happened to you and whether you hate the system or love it, and send it off to truckerdump@gmail.com. Well, there's not really much to report on that, and probably won't affect you unless you're planning on buying a new Kenworth next year. But apparently you can order it right now if you're ready to buy. So again, this one's on overdriveonline.com. Check it out. Landline.media usually, is pretty clear in their writing, but this article honestly has me a bit confused. Now, I don't know if that's because Mr. Goebel here did not get good information or if it's just unclear in the writing, but, well, you let me know. This one is called New Michigan Law Clears Path for Autonomous Vehicle Roadways. So nothing is going to happen right away on this one. It's just that the Governor Gretchen Whitmer has signed into a new law to develop a connected and automated vehicle corridor. Basically, they're just trying to promote the use of autonomous vehicles, and they want to be a place where, you can test them because, well, maybe that's not such a bad idea because Michigan has some of the worst roads in the country. So, why not test them on the crappy roads, right? Makes sense. But here's the part that confused me a little bit. Apparently, back in 2016, a bill was signed into law by then Governor Rick Schneider about these autonomous vehicles. And that law permitted the operation of autonomous vehicles on public roads and does not require a person to be inside the vehicle. But the next sentence says operators are required to supervise and control the vehicle. So how can you do that if you're not in the truck? I am a little confused by that. Maybe they're talking about remote control, but I wish that was a bit more clear. Now, it did specify back then that truck platoons do require to have a CDL holder behind the wheel. Now, a truck platoon, if you are unfamiliar with that term or, well, new to the show because we've talked about it in the past, truck platooning is basically this system where they're trying to make vehicles more efficient by having one truck follow another truck really, really, really closely. And the second truck would be controlled by, They're saying they have to have operators in them right now, but ultimately these trucks would be operated by electronics and they would communicate with each other. And so like when the first vehicle brakes, the second vehicle would know immediately through, electronically. And maybe there's even 2 or 3 trucks being pulled, right behind each other. And we're talking like 20 to 40 feet somewhere, like really close to the vehicle to draft off each other. This was big talk for a little while, and then it just kind of disappeared. So I'm not really sure where that stands on truck platooning. But as you can tell, back in 2016, they were talking about that a lot. But this new law basically permits the Michigan Department of Transportation and the Office of Future Mobility and Electrification to work together in the private sector to try to come up with automated, boy, I have such a hard time with that word, vehicle roadway technology. So, putting stuff actually in the roads to help like the GPS and to help your truck communicate with the road and possibly with other vehicles, that kind of a thing. And this new law also gives the Michigan DOT the authority to designate a segment of the roadway under its jurisdiction as an automated vehicle roadway. It applies to certain driving lanes, it says. So, in the future, doesn't exactly say when this is going to kick in. Apparently the law is already passed. So I don't know how quickly they're going to move on this and start allowing autonomous vehicles on the road. Sounds like that was already possible, but I've been in Michigan quite a bit and haven't seen any trucks driving along without drivers behind the wheel. We will see. But, just don't freak out if you see that. Well, you're allowed to freak out because there's no driver. But, just so you know, it is legal apparently up there in Michigan. Who knew? Now, of course, anytime there's a new law put into place, there's always arguments for and against. The people for it say, they say the Michigan Senate Fiscal Agency did a study and showed that 90% of all fatal crashes were caused by driver behavior factors. Well, that doesn't surprise me. Most of these aren't like mechanical failures that cause accidents. It's usually the driver, has an error. So they're saying, if we go to more autonomous vehicles and automated roadways, that's going to, quote, contribute to the reduction or elimination of traffic fatalities. Elimination? Yeah, good luck with that one. That's never going to happen. Critics to this law say the new rule confuses who would be liable if a person is injured or killed on the affected roadways. And that's always been the case. We've talked about that in the past, that's one of the big problems with this these automated vehicles is who's responsible. Is it the truck? Is it the company who owns the truck? Is it the company that owns the technology that makes the truck automated? Who knows? I mean, if there's a driver sitting behind the seat and they're just monitoring the situation and they don't catch it in time and the truck wrecks, is it the driver's fault? Is it the automated system's fault? Don't know. There's a lot to work out for the lawyers here. So this is just another reason why I've said that I don't think these automated vehicles are going to be here it's going to take way longer than a lot of people think. I just don't see it coming like right around the corner. They got to work all this legal stuff out before we can move on with that. But anyway, really short article on this. I pretty much said everything there was on here. But you're welcome to check it out. Landline.media. Here is an interesting one I found at Transport Topics. That's ttnews.com. Pilot Kodiak partner on autonomous truck services. So basically what this is a partnership between Kodiak Robotics, who does automated trucks, and Pilot, Flying J. And, it's basically trying to figure out how we're going to service these autonomous trucks in the future. So their first step in this is to make what they are calling an autonomous truck port in the Atlanta area. They say that potential service offerings at this facility include spaces for autonomous trucks to pick up and drop off loads, as well as bays for vehicle inspection, maintenance, and refueling, and spots for data transfer and processing for feature development and mapping. I don't know what that last part means. Spots for data transfer. I don't know. And processing for feature development and mapping. That sounds like a lot of corporate speak. I don't understand that at all. If you do, email me, truckerdump@gmail.com. Maybe you were a middle manager in your past life and you understand all this jargon. But anyway, this article is much longer and talks about, how Pilot Flying J is going through this New Horizons thing we talked about in the last episode where, they're going to be rejuvenating a lot of their truck stops with, upgraded lighting, better restrooms, traffic flow, better food options and things like that. They're going on this big tear and, Pilot Flying J has vowed to stay current with the changing times and try to service all of the autonomous needs or, when it comes to electric trucks, things like that, they vowed to, do whatever is necessary to become the place you want to stop when you're on the road. Well, this is just another part in that. I'm a little confused on this one. This looks like it doesn't almost look like it's going to be at the current truck stops, but maybe these autonomous truck ports, as they're calling them, is something entirely different, like just new truck stops without all the features. Like you won't be able to go in there and get, showers and stuff like that, but you can, again, pull in there, get fuel, have somebody there to inspect the vehicle. When the autonomous vehicle gets there, then somebody's there to actually park it in its spot and drop it out, things like that. Yeah, interesting. Kind of a whole new concept for Pilot Flying J, but that's what deals like this have to be made for the future to figure out how we're going to go through with this. And, Pilot needs Kodiak to tell them what they need, from an autonomous point of view. And, Kodiak needs to know how to better work with the truck stops so that they're able to get in and out of there safely. Very interesting stuff here. Check out this article over here on Transport Topics. That's ttnews.com. Times are changing, folks. May as well get used to it. All right. This story was brought to my attention by a Pennsylvania resident, Trevor, who I mistakenly called Travis at one point in the listener feedback section last time. Well, not last time. I think it was the episode before. Anyway, this is from landline.media. New Pennsylvania law authorizes truck-way system. So apparently Pennsylvania will become the 48th state to adopt a truck-way system. Don't know why it took them so long, honestly. And there's really not a whole lot to say about this. Is just that they say it's more efficient. It's for the driver. It's more friendly to the environment because, trucks are having to not having to slow down and go into the truck stops or the end of these way stations and then accelerate back out onto the highway and all that. They're saying it's just a much more efficient tool. Of course, the other, 47 states that have already adopted this already knew that, which is why they did it. The funny thing is about this article is it does not specify what they're using. If they're going to use DriveWise or, pre-pass, it just says they're coming up with a solution, but it doesn't say when or what. Well, it says when. The new law takes effect in January. So interesting. Anyway, just so you know, be looking for maybe your pre-pass or your DriveWise device to start working in Pennsylvania come the start of 2023. Wouldn't that be awesome? Although, in my experience, of course, it's been a while since I've been in Pennsylvania with the new job and everything. But, in my experience, most of those way stations over there weren't open half the time anyway. So I don't really know exactly how much this is going to benefit. But anyway, you can check this one out, landline.media. Man, oh man, it seems like everybody wants to pick a trucker's brain nowadays. Found this one on overdriveonline.com. Texas DOT wants parking and other information on I-10 corridor to prioritize projects. Yep, sounds like this is the third of 5 phases. That's just meant to identify projects and prioritize considerations. They want you to take a survey that will be available through September 6th. They're looking for information on the entire 10 corridor all the way across Texas from the New Mexico line to the Louisiana state line. They're basically just trying to figure out how to proceed and what parts of the interstate need help and how they need help and where to prioritize their money and their efforts. So they're looking for information on truck parking, mobility and congestion, costs and funding, multimodal passenger and freight, alternative routes and resiliency, connectivity, safety, operations and maintenance, and asset preservation. So if you've got any information on this, weigh in on it. Like I said, they've been asking our opinions a lot lately. And if we want to be heard, if they ask, tell them, right? Why would you not? For all the details on this one, head on over to overdriveonline.com. And again, that survey ends on September 6th, and you can take that in English or Spanish, in case you no habla English. If there's anything I've learned from doing this podcast for 10 years, yes, 10 years, it's that your time is important. And one of the best ways you can save time is by hiring someone to do something that you don't like to do. That's where Porter Freight Funding comes in. And the problem they solve is bad customers who don't want to pay. The last thing you need as a trucker is to do a job and not get paid for it. Well, you don't need that. You need the cash now. And you do that by calling Porter Freight Funding at 205-397-0934 and setting up an account. Once that's done, each time you have one of these problem child customers, you just drop off your load, submit your paperwork to Porter Freight Funding, and get paid within 24 hours. Easy peasy. Sure, you can always set up an ongoing account with Porter to just handle everything for you, or you can just use them for those pain in the butts that you just hate dealing with. Either way, Porter Freight Funding has got your back with not only collections, but also brokering, dispatching, fuel cards, insurance, and any questions you have about compliance. Give them a call at 205-397-0934 or go to porterfreightfunding.com/truckerdump. Truckerdump is all one word. And of course, there's a link in the show notes. And thanks to Porter Freight Funding for sponsoring this episode of Trucker Dump. Hey, you remember in the last episode where we were talking about the driver who was seeking an exemption from the hours of service rules and from the e-logs themselves? Well, here is a follow-up on that from freightwaves.com. So as a quick reminder, this exemption involves Ronnie Brown III, who is a driver for a company called Gray Transportation out of Waterloo, Iowa. And he contends that, the one size fits all doesn't apply to him. Specifically, he is asking for a 5-year exemption from the 10-hour off-duty requirement, from the 11-hour driving window, the 14-hour driving window, limits of 60 hours in 70 days and 70 hours in 8 days, and from using an ELD, or an electronic logging device. So pretty much just, no rules is what he's after. Now, apparently, they are moving forward with this. I guess the FMCSA, when they have a formal request like this, they have to post it for public comment. So that is going to be up soon, if not already. I don't know. It doesn't really say here. You might check out this article and click on these links. They'll probably update these links, once the commenting period is live. So again, that's freightwaves.com. Click the link right there in the show notes and you can go make your comments on Mr. Brown's request. But anyway, this article, the reason I'm pointing this out is this article actually has a bit of updated information. FreightWaves talked to Paul Taylor, who is the managing partner for Truckers Justice Center. We've talked about him before in the past. He's done a lot of those trucking law stuff over on overdriveonline.com. A very knowledgeable source for the trucking industry. So he comments that the application for this exemption was not really completed as it should have been. Apparently, when you make an exemption like this, the application must explain why not only you believe the exemption is needed, but you also have to explain how you are going to be affected by the rules in question. In other words, and I quote here, how you would ensure that you could achieve a level of safety that is equivalent to or greater than the level of safety that would be obtained by complying with the regulation. And the application must also include the impacts you could experience if the exemption is not granted by the FMCSA. So this is where Paul Taylor says this petition is not up to par. Apparently, Mr. Brown did not list any of that stuff in his application, explaining why he needs to be exempt, why he thinks he can be just as safe, and how this is going to negatively affect him. The only thing he does say in his defense is, quote, from Mr. Brown here, "The hours of service is a mechanism by the government to control my movements, which I view as a violation of my constitutional right to free movement and my right as a human being to make my own choices in life as to my work habits." Brown goes on and says, "The 60-70-hour rule prevents me from working as many days as I want to due to not enough hours per regulations. That controls how much money I can make in a week while out on the road, equal to 8.75 hours a day over an 8-day period. If I work more than that in a day, I will have to sit around in truck stops for 34 hours due to not being able to pick up hours," end quote. Well, that's certainly true, but, since when do we have a big industry like the transportation industry that is not regulated? The railroads are regulated, the airlines are regulated, lots of businesses are regulated for reasons. I'm not saying we necessarily need these hours of service. It would be great if we didn't, but I don't know. FMCSA definitely needs to go back and look into this, especially after, the last episode we talked about how, they only discovered 2 wrecks from drivers who were on the COVID exemption, were able to drive as long as they wanted, and there was only 2 minor wrecks during that whole time. So maybe that proves it out. But regardless, I don't really think this is going to go anywhere for Mr. Brown, I should say. And, neither does Paul Taylor. And I've got a quote from Taylor here who sums it up nicely. He says, "The petitioner provides no legitimate reasons for why he should have his own personal exemption. If the FMCSA grants such an exemption, it would be arbitrary and capricious, and upon review by a court of appeals would likely be reversed or vacated." So, in short, nobody get all excited about them dropping the hours of service. Like I said, it ain't going to happen. If you want to check out this article and read more about Mr. Brown's quest for, complete anonymity and just being able to fly on the radar without any rules whatsoever, then head on over here to freightwaves.com. Well, I guess hair drug testing is back in the news. Landline.media. Trucking Alliance makes another pitch for hair testing. Now, I had never heard of the Trucking Alliance before, but apparently they include a lot of large fleets, including Cargo Transporters, Dupree Logistics, Frozen Food Express, JB Hunt, KLLM Transport Services, Knight Transportation, Maverick Transportation, Schneider, Swift Transportation, U.S. Express, and May Trucking. That is a lot of drivers they're representing there. And basically what they're wanting to do is get this looked at again, where they want to submit their hair testing results to the Drug and Alcohol Clearinghouse. Now, they were denied this in the past, back in 2021. The FMCSA just formally denied it and, said they didn't have the authority to admit these drug tests, these hair follicle tests to the FMC or to the Drug and Alcohol Clearinghouse. But now for some reason, they're going back on that, and they're saying, well, we're not going to allow it. We still don't have that authority, but we are going to open this up for public comment, and they are going to look at it again. So they are opening up a 30-day public comment. It does not look like that is done yet. They've submitted this to the Federal Register, but it's not, the commenting period is not open yet. So I will keep you up to date on this one so you can have a go at this. If you want to know what OOIDA, Owner-Operator Independent Driver Association, their view on this is that hair follicle testing should not be allowed due to the fact that apparently it does not just see what you're doing as a driver. Like if they found marijuana in your in a hair follicle test, that doesn't prove that you smoked the marijuana. It could just show that you were in an environment where pot was being smoked. So basically, if you ever went to a Fish concert or something like that, you might be labeled as a drug user, and that's not cool. So that's why OOIDA thinks it ought to stay out. Of course, the Trucking Alliance here thinks it is a better indicator, saying that you're, by not allowing these hair follicle tests, you are possibly putting yourself at risk for hiring a driver who has a habitual cocaine problem or whatever. And they have also said that the Drug and Alcohol Clearinghouse, with the way they do things now, that it's not quite thorough enough at catching this stuff, these long-term drug users. I don't know. It's kind of up for debate. I mean, if you were, say, brand new to the industry, and you were a pot smoker 6 months ago, right? And you smoked some pot, and then you decided, I need to get my life together and quit sitting on the couch eating Cheetos all the time. I'm going to go to driving school and go out there and, become a truck driver. Well, now they get to their first job, they give them a follicle test, and they go, nope, you're a druggie, can't do it. Person hasn't smoked in 6 months, but, well, they suddenly are not eligible to drive a truck, or nobody's going to hire them because they have this in the system. I don't know about this. I don't know. Sure, it shows long term, but is that long term accurate for the situation? I mean, should these carriers hold you? Especially with the way, especially legal marijuana. That's coming everywhere in the United States. And, if you want to smoke some doobage on your vacation or something, and you're not going to be back to work for a week or two, who's to say you shouldn't be able to do that? I mean, other than the fact that it's illegal in some states still, but as long as it's legal. I'm not a big fan of pot. I don't get it. I tried it once, and yes, I did inhale. Didn't much like it. didn't do anything for me. I just went back to drinking. So, but I'm not going to yuck your yum if that's your bag. But anyway, another problem with this hair testing also is like it is not immediately. Like it doesn't tell you immediately what's going on. So for instance, if you had an accident and the company sent you down to get a test and they give you a hair follicle test, well, it's not going to show if you're drunk right then. That's what a urine test is for. So they're going to have to work all this stuff out. But anyway, there will be a commenting period on here. And if you have strong feelings about it one way or another, or even if you just have an opinion on it one way or another, that is what these public commenting periods are for. So make your voice be heard. Again, I will keep you updated on this as soon as I see that it has gone live. The commenting period, I will let you know. But for now, if you want to read up on this, check it out at landline.media. You know, there is an art to writing a good headline for a story. And when you get it right, you just get it right. Freightwaves.com. Why trucking is peeved at the Supreme Court. Well, that'll get your attention. Subtitle, Industry is in relative state of chaos after Supreme Court decisions. Or, I guess we should honestly say, lack of decisions. That's because the Supreme Court decided in a couple of cases recently just to decline to hear the case, basically, which they have the right to do. The first one is, of course, the AB5 rule or law that we've been talking about for a long time that involves California independent contractors and the fact that they cannot be independent contractors anymore. They actually have to now become employees for a trucking company if they want to continue to operate in the state of California. And by the way, I mentioned in the last episode that I was a little confused over that video about driving into and out of California, and I have not, as of the time of this recording, I have not heard from any of you, so maybe you're just as confused as I am. I may have to escalate this up to talking to OOIDA, who published that video, and see where they got that information. If I don't hear from anybody by the end of this week, I will probably do that. Yeah, got to get this information right. It's important. Well, I guess it's not important if you're not an independent contractor, but, you know, it is a big thing in the trucking industry and has big ramifications for the entire country. Because like we said before, if California does it, eventually everybody else does it because we have no ability to think for ourselves anymore. So anyway, that was the first thing, was the AB5. The second thing that they're pissed at the Supreme Court about is this C.H. Robinson Worldwide versus Miller. I don't think we've talked about this on this episode, but there was an article a while back, I think it was actually on freightwaves.com, that said that this C.H. Robinson case could actually have a bigger impact than the AB5, which is a bold statement because, you know, AB5 could possibly affect the entire country, like I said, eventually. But this C.H. Robinson could also. And again, they just declined to see this and just stuck with the other court's rulings. So basically what this C.H. Robinson thing is, I'm going to just sum it up as briefly as I can. Basically, this Miller used C.H. Robinson, which is a huge, well, as far as I know, they are the largest freight brokerage company in the U.S., and they hired, C.H. Robinson to find them an owner-operator and to haul a load for them. And C.H. Robinson did that. And apparently the carrier that they hired had a wreck, caused an accident. I can't remember if there was injuries involved, but it was a pretty big case. And this Miller decided to, say, hey, this was not my responsibility, because that's who was under the gun for this, because it was their load brokered through C.H. Robinson. So the case in point is who is at fault? Because Miller is saying that C.H. Robinson has a responsibility before they hire somebody to haul loads to check those people out, check out their safety ratings. And apparently the company that they hired did not have a very good safety rating. And of course, Miller didn't know this. They just left it up to C.H. Robinson saying, hey, you're the pros here, do your job, and I trust that you're going to get me somebody good to haul my load for me. So basically, with the Supreme Court deciding not to look at this, they are saying that C.H. Robinson or any broker is not responsible for the liability in this. They are, basically every brokerage should be doing their due diligence and looking at the carriers that they're hiring, things like that. But they're not, they're not liable ultimately. So, you should, but we're not going to hold you accountable to it, which, God, I love that. No accountability whatsoever. Not cool. So how this is going to affect, the overall trucking industry in general is, well, I don't know. Maybe freight brokers are kind of already under the gun from the federal government right now, and we'll just see how this goes. To be continued, I guess. This is a fairly long article, fairly detailed, and, hey, if you think this could affect you or you're just interested in this subject, head on over here and prepare to read a lot. But it's good information. Freightwaves.com. I don't report every time a trucking company buys another trucking company, but, if there's significance to it, then yeah. And there's definitely significance to this one. Founded on Freightwaves.com, Heartland Express embarks on its biggest challenge yet. And what is that challenge? Well, they are buying CFI. Well, they're buying CFI Truckload. Now, CFI is a company based out of Joplin. They are part of the big TFI International Group. And TFI is selling off just the truckload portion of it. Well, the truckload, the temperature control, and the Mexican border, and their LTL Asset Light Logistics Unit, CFI Logistica. But Heartland is in for a challenge here because, well, one, they just bought Smith Transportation recently back in June. And so this is kind of odd for Heartland. Apparently they have always been debt-free, operated debt-free, or they just take out like a little loans for things that they need. Like when they purchased, Gordon Trucking and also Interstate Distributor, they, took out small loans and paid those off within, 3 years or 4 years or something like that. They're very good with their money. Now, this hasn't been approved yet, but all signs point that it will be approved by the association, whoever the heck approves this kind of stuff. I don't remember who that is. But anyway, they are going to be the 8th largest truckload fleet in the U.S. with approximately 5,550 tractors, 17,800 trailers, and $1.3 billion in annual revenue. So, like I say, a big deal. And this is a challenge, according to this article here, because CFI has not been doing quite as well as they should be lately. And, Heartland wants to turn that around. Says the CEO of Heartland has had their eye on CFI for quite a while, ever since they were bought out by other companies, 3 other companies to be specific, but he's had his eye on them the whole time and finally got a hold of him. I guess he just had to jump when there was an opportunity. So CFI is going to add about 2,000 trucks and about 8,000 trailers, which CEO Michael Gurdon says that Gurdon, I'm not sure. Anyway, he says that that is a big deal in today's market, which is true. Anybody who's been in the trucking industry for the last few years knows that there is a shortage of both tractors and trailers, especially trailers. Trailers is ridiculous. So to add 8,000 trailers to your fleet is quite remarkable. So anyway, don't expect CFI to go away. Like a lot of other companies that Heartland has bought, like Interstate Distributor and Gordon Trucking, I'm pretty sure Millis Transfer also has been just folded into Heartland, and you don't see those trucks on the road anymore. But apparently they're not going to do that with CFI. They're going to keep them as their own separate company. So you'll still see CFI out there, and just interesting to know they're part of Heartland Express. Again, maybe one of these days you can win a bar bet out of that one. So for all the details and all the challenges that they're facing with acquiring CFI, head on over here to freightwaves.com. That's another one of those that just may not ever affect you, but hey, it's good to know. Okay, let's head on over to overdriveonline.com for one of these awesome trucking law articles that I love so much. This one is called 6 Pre- and Post-Trip Inspection Myths and the Reality. What you'll find here is a video. It's about 5 minutes, well, less than 5 minutes long, and it covers 6 really popular myths. I'll go over them very, very briefly, but I would highly recommend you go watch this video. It's very quick and to the point. Mr. Todd Dills, the editor over there at overdriveonline.com, is the narrator, but he got this information from our good friend Paul Taylor at the Truckers Justice Center, and that guy knows his stuff. So just let me give you a brief rundown. There's more details in the video, but myth number 1, a driver must prepare a pre-trip inspection report before he or she drives the truck. Well, that's not true at all. Huh? I'm not going to read out the numbers where this can be found. You can check this out in the show notes. But basically what the FMCSA rules say is that there must be a written report at the completion of each day's work on each vehicle that the driver operates. So if anybody tries to tell you that a pre-trip inspection report is required, they are flat out wrong. Okay, now you're probably thinking, okay, well, the report isn't necessary, but you still have to do a pre-trip inspection, right? Well, that's myth number 2. Technically, it's not true. The rules simply say that the driver must be satisfied that everything is in good working order before driving. Seriously, it doesn't say you have to do a pre-trip inspection. Now, honestly, I would think you would want to do a little pre-trip inspection because how can you know otherwise? Well, a couple of scenarios that they mention here in the video is that, say, your co-driver did the inspection. Well, you don't have to go do it, immediately too. And, quite frankly, in a team situation, that often happens. The driver finishes their shift, they go do a post-trip inspection, and then you get up and you're getting ready to drive. Is it really necessary to go do a pre-trip inspection? Well, I guess if you don't trust your co-driver, yeah, it is. But if you do, the co-driver's inspection will be satisfactory. Also, a safety lane inspection. So if you wake up at a terminal and you run through a safety inspection lane before you head out, then great. That suffices too. So in other words, a pre-trip inspection is not mandatory. Who knew? Myth number 3. A driver must record at least 15 minutes on his log for a pre-trip inspection. Again, this is false. I think we've talked about this on the podcast before, but nowhere in the regs does it say that you have to log 15 minutes. That is typically a carrier thing. They want you to log at least 15 minutes just so you have something to show to a DOT officer if you get inspected or whatever. Also, this basically comes from I always felt like this came from back in the days when we were on paper logs and you could only log things in 15 minutes increments. So, you could flag something if it took less than 7 minutes, but why not just show the full 15 minutes? And I think that's where this myth came from. A lot of the carriers just required 15 minutes on your logs, but technically they cannot require that because, again, you are supposed to be doing your logs as you actually do the work. So, if the pre-trip inspection takes you 5 minutes, you should only log 5 minutes. If it takes you 45 minutes, you should log 45 minutes. So just a blanket statement of 15 minutes is flat out wrong. Myth number 4 is a little more vague. I had never actually heard this before, but this myth says that a violation-free level 1 roadside inspection is a substitute for an annual inspection. Apparently, that is not true in most states, but it can be in some states. So let's just say don't count on it. So, just because you get a level 1 roadside inspection and you pass does not mean you do not have to go get an annual inspection on your truck or trailer. Myth number 5, quite frankly, confused me a little bit. It says an annual DOT inspection must be performed not less frequently than annually. Technically, that's not true. The way this works out, you're going to have to go and read this yourself because it confused me. But basically, you can go, you just have to have an annual inspection performed at least once during the preceding 12 months. So they're saying an annual inspection could technically be done every 13 months. Interesting. Check that one out if you're interested in trying to figure out the math behind that one. And the last myth is a carrier may not limit the amount of time a driver may take to perform a vehicle inspection. Didn't know this was a thing either, but apparently there was a case where a driver was doing a post-trip inspection or pre-trip inspection, and the carrier was telling them they were taking too long, and the driver said, no, I can take as long as I want. Well, I have to admit this one came as a surprise to me, but apparently the U.S. Department of Labor has ruled that an employer may in fact impose reasonable inspection methods and reasonable time limitations on the inspection. Who knew? Honestly, I can't imagine why a driver would want to take longer than, necessary just to drag out time. Who knows why they would do that, but you never know. So anyway, that about covers that. Again, you can find this on overdriveonline.com. Head on over there to find a link to the video and also a link to Paul Taylor's truckersjusticecenter.com. When I first saw this next headline, I got really excited and, well, I shouldn't have because, once again, my brain outran my eyeballs. I did not read it correctly. So found this one on landline.media. Travel Centers of America opens South Dakota Truck Service Center. Service Center. That's the part I missed. I was thinking truck stop. Okay. Travel Center of America recently announced the opening of a new TA Truck Service Center located in Summit, South Dakota. That's at exit 207 on I-29. And if you haven't been out that way in a long time, it's out in the middle of freaking nowhere. And that's why I was kind of excited. I was like, that'd be great to have another truck stop out there. Yeah, I mean, like I say, out in the middle of nowhere, you'd think you would get lots of business running up through there because there are limited options on I-29 in South Dakota, especially once you get north of Sioux Falls. There ain't nothing up there. But apparently that is not what this is all about. Although this will be welcome, if you break down in the area, they're going to have 4 service bays, and they're also going to provide emergency roadside assistance. So, when you're out here in the middle of nowhere, this is a handy thing to have somebody who will jump in a truck and come out to you. So not much more to say about that except for, I was really super excited and then I wasn't, and then I kind of was again. So, good for South Dakota and good for all the drivers who break down out there in the middle of freaking nowhere. Not much more to report on this one, but hey, if you're interested in seeing if I possibly missed something in the article, head on over to landline.media. Drink! Yep, another Love's opens up, this time in Washington State. This one is in Pasco, Washington. Does not list an exit number. That's because there probably isn't one. I had to look this up. I had no idea where Pasco is. That is near the intersection of Highway 182 and US 395 near Kennewick, Washington. Kind of hard to describe. You probably just best to search for Pasco, Washington in your favorite map app to figure out where that's at. So yes, like we said, this Love's is already open. It's got 57 truck parking spaces, 7 diesel bays, 5 showers, laundry facilities, cat scale, and a dog park. And there will be an Arby's opening on August 29th. Pretty cool. For all the details on this one, head over to cdllife.com. Hey, here's something to be aware of. Found this one on overdriveonline.com. Love launches annual Children's Miracle Network campaign on Friday. Yep, starting August 26th, you will be able to donate at every Love's travel stop, country store, Love's owned hotels, which I didn't know was a thing, and participating Speedco locations through September 30th. It says here, Love started partnering with Children's Miracle Network hospitals in 1999. They've raised more than $40 million for children across the country. Thanks for the most part, for truckers. As far as donations go, there's lots of ways to do it here. You can purchase a paper balloon for $1, $5, or $20, or you can round up to the nearest dollar, or you can just donate at the register. And you'll also be able to just donate right there on the debit card pin pad, or the credit card pad. They're also going to hold fundraisers, raffles, and they're going to sell the hospital merchandise there too. And to top this all off, I mentioned that, the last day for this collection would be September 30th. Well, September 29th is National Coffee Day. And Love's is going to sell you any size coffee you want for $1, and all proceeds are going to go to Children's Miracle Network hospitals. Pretty cool. Now, that does say coffee purchases must be made through the Loves Connect app for that to work. So make sure you download the Loves Connect app if you don't already have it. It's free, Android, iPhone, whatever you got. So, pretty cool stuff here. Make sure you jump in on this. Children's Miracle Network is a great organization, and I imagine their hospitals are pretty cool too. And come on, it's for the kids, man. Check this out on overdriveonline.com for all the details. I can't believe it. It's finally happened. The Kardashians have invaded the Trucker Dump podcast. Didn't think it would ever happen, but here we are. Found this one over on CDL Life, and I gotta say, not a fan of this article. It's called Celebrities Treat Truck Stop Like a Zoo in Disrespectful Photo Shoot. Okay. I really thought that truckers were not the type to get their little egos bruised and their feelings hurt all the time. And so I just don't understand this article at all, or the whole shebang over what happened. So, we're talking about Kourtney Kardashian and her husband, Travis Barker, who, if you don't know who he is the drummer, or was the drummer for Blink-182, which is a great band, by the way. If you love that type of music, it is great. But anyway, here's what happened. They showed up at a Pilot truck stop one night. Apparently it was pretty late, and they walked around the truck stop taking some pictures. Most of them were inside the store of them, just looking at different stuff. Others, there was one in particular that was taking a picture of the trucks out in the parking lot. And, of course it shows them in the shots because they are celebrities and that's what they do. Nobody should be surprised by this. But everybody was up in arms about, well, not everybody, but there was a lot of people who were up in arms about this. For instance, one of the comments on Reddit said, "This is where my father has to sleep in the back of his semi 6 nights a week, and they're treating it like a zoo, taking pictures of the trucks. Sorry, but this makes me angry." And another person writes, "Imagine being so rich that seeing 10 semis lined up together constitutes a picture." And a third wrote, in all caps, "Taking pics of the trucks like it's cool and they're not sleeping and they're working overtime." Who freaking cares? There are more comments just like this. Who cares? One time I was at a truck stop, I was fueling, and there was a bus of Asians, and they pulled up, and clearly they were not used to seeing big trucks, and especially the long-nosed ones like we have here in the States, and they were taking pictures, they were laughing, they were carrying on. It was funny to me. I was just enjoyed it. I walked up and tried to have a conversation with them, and, got a picture they took a picture of me with my truck. It was just, it's out of their element. They're not used to it. And someone right here in the comments said they're not used to seeing trucks, these celebrities. You know what? You're right. They're not. So what are we making such a big deal out of it? They see some trucks. They're not used to being in truck stops. They take a picture. It's a novelty to them. They're not belittling it or anything. I was honestly, when I read this article, I thought, boy, they must have said something really derogatory towards truckers. They did not. They put a bunch of pictures on Instagram, and the only thing was one of them said, "Truck stop, comma, huh, question mark." How is that derogatory in any way whatsoever? I just don't understand it. Now, don't get me wrong. I am not a fan of the Kardashians in any way. I've never watched one of their shows or anything with them in it. But I am a fan of Travis Barker, by the way, and Blink-182. But, they just don't deserve this time around. Truckers, get off your high horse. Accept the fact that we have a job that is crazy and a little bit unorthodox and just kind of weird to most people. I don't get offended when somebody asks me where we take showers, like we never take them or something like that. It's think of it this way. if you were in a strange country, for instance, say England, and you were taking a ride on the tube, and that's not something you do every day. So you take a picture of everyone standing on the platform waiting on the tube. Is that disrespectful in any way? I don't think so. How about when you go to see like a monastery for, monks at a monastery or something like that, and you're taking pictures of them sitting out there doing their meditations out in the front courtyard or whatever. Is that disrespectful, or is it just that you're probably never going to see anything like this again? I mean, for Pete's sake, truckers, lighten up. And I realize I'm probably preaching to the choir here because you guys probably think this is a stupid story too. But, this is for all the idiots out there who are getting up in arms about nothing whatsoever. Celebrities don't know trucks, don't know anything about the trucking lifestyle. It's weird to them. They took some photos. Get over it. Rant over. Come on, CDL Life. You're better than this. Well, I guess that about does it for the news today. No Trucker Grub segment again this week, so you're just going to have to find your own nice place to eat. And while you're at it, you might as well go ahead and make a quick 3-minute or less audio clip to tell me all about it and send it in. We get it on the podcast. Tell me about the restaurant, where you can park your truck, what's your favorite meal, atmosphere, prices, all that good stuff. Hours, if you have it, give me a website so I can find it and put the link in the show notes. I take it nobody has got down through Corbin, Kentucky at the Pilot yet and tried out that new Burrito Junction we talked about. I'm still waiting to get down there. It may be a while. I don't get down that corridor very often. So I'm relying on you to do that for me. Send that off to truckerdump@gmail.com. But we do have some listener feedback. Not much, but a little. And one of them's a real doozy.
Hey, yo, bud, where do you want this load of feedback?
All right, got a couple of real quick listener feedbacks to finish up here. First, we're going to hear from Mark Schrimmer. Now, you may or may not know Mr. Schrimmer's name, but I mentioned him earlier in the episode. That's because he is the author of the AB5 video post that I was talking about earlier. And I believe, if memory serves, I said that I was going to reach out to him if I didn't get any clarification on, the AB5 video and, going into California with a load, and, how you're going to have to drop it off at the border if you were an owner-operator, or not an owner-operator. Keep saying owner-operator. I mean lease operator. Dear God, man. How long have I been reporting on this and I keep saying owner-operator? Lease operator. Oh, good Lord, Todd. But anyway, I was, sitting there contemplating, and I thought, why am I waiting? That's just dumb. Just go ahead and email Mr. Schrimmer yourself and ask him what the deal is with that. So I sent him an email, just told him I really enjoyed the OOIDA video, but I was a little confused by the endpoint there, and I just wanted some clarification on it. So he wrote me back and said, my understanding is not that the foundation, OOIDA Foundation, who did the video, my understanding is not that they were declaring that was the case, but raising it as a concern because California had not provided clarification on how the law would be enforced on the trucking industry. Hopefully, we will soon learn more from California on how the law will view all these scenarios in trucking. Thanks, Mark. No, thank you, Mark. That's the clarification I needed. It sounds like they were speculating on that part of it, and they are not sure exactly. So I kind of wish they would take that down, because to me, I didn't look at it as speculation. I looked at it as fact, because when OOIDA says something, I just generally assume it is fact. So I hope they change that video around a little bit. Mark, if you're listening to this, that would be awesome. But, hey, it's your guys' website. Do what you want with it. But just so you know, that in part of that little AB5 video that we talked about in the last episode, and again in this episode, the part about the trucks traveling into California, having to drop it off to an employee driver, that may or may not be true. We will find that out in the future. I believe I saw some, I think I got an email or something about a webinar about more on how California will be handling this, but I'm honestly not going to sit through it. I'll just wait until the stories come out on it, and then I'll talk about it on here then. But anyway, thank you, Mr. Schrimmer, Mark, for writing in and letting me know. He responded very quickly. That was very cool of him. Now, next up, we're going to hear from Lane. Now, Lane is the reason why I need comments from you intelligent folks, okay? I don't need these kind of emails, but I get them, especially when it comes to my article called 4 Reasons That Trucker Might Be Tailgating You. Now, it's just one simple sentence, but the absurdity of it just kills me. Okay. He simply says, TLDR, my job matters more than people's lives. Yes, he's being a smart aleck there, and he's saying that my job, I deem that my job matters more people's lives, so I should be able to tailgate. Well, but what's this TLDR thing? You probably know because you're way more hip than me, but I didn't know what that meant, so I had to look it up. Well, apparently, TLDR means too long, didn't read. It's an abbreviation that is used to indicate that the person posting about an article or other type of content either didn't read the text in it in its entirety or didn't read it at all. So, okay. So you read a headline, you didn't read it, and you just commented some smart aleck comment. How about you read the article, Lane, then come back and tell me what you think? Because I wasn't condoning tailgating. I was saying there might be reasons why the trucker is tailgating you. Maybe you ought to speed your butt up or get out of the way or just, quit varying your speed. Lots of reasons why a trucker might be tailgating you. TLDR my butt. Someone write in and cover for Lane, please. Good thing is I know Lane will never hear this because if he's not going to read that tiny little article, he's certainly not going to listen to this podcast. Thank God for that. I'd like to think my listeners are more intelligent than that. So if you would like to contribute to the show in any manner that you deem necessary, whether you want to insult me, tell me some TLDR, give me some more abbreviations I don't understand, or just write in to, comment on past episodes, news stories, experiences you've had with the podcast, experiences you've had on the road that are interesting, maybe something that newbie drivers can learn from, something you just went through, whatever it is, I don't care. As you can see, I'm dying for listener feedback here. I was afraid this was going to happen when I went to a weekly podcast, and sure as crap, it's happening. So come on, get on it out there. I need your help. Again, just send me an email or send me an audio comment to truckerdump@gmail.com. Well, as far as I know, that closes out the episode for today. But before we go, I want to thank today's sponsor. That's Porter Freight Funding. You can learn more at porterfreightfunding.com/truckerdump or give them a call at 205-397-0934 and tell them the Trucker Dump podcast sent you. Well, with that, I guess we'll just crank up some tunage. So I could tell you everything I do can be found at abouttruckdriving.com, but I won't. What I will do is mention the handy-dandy free PDF called How to Axle a Load that can be found under the Free Stuff tab at abouttruckdriving.com. I had nearly forgotten about it until new Trucker Dump Slack member Nicole asked the group a question about sliding the fifth wheel. Naturally, I pointed her to the PDF on abouttruckdriving.com and answered her question. But seriously, I swear not to mention abouttruckdriving.com again, because mentioning abouttruckdriving.com even one more time might be too much. Well, as always, thanks for listening and following the podcast. So until next time, drive safe and stay out of my way. Check 1, check 2, check 3, check 4, check 1. Can I hear myself? Unfortunately, yes. Well, guess what? According to the U.S. Department of Labor, they say that labor? Did I say labor? I may have said labor. Well, apparently the U.S. Department of Labor. I keep saying labor. What the hell? I had nearly forgotten about it until new Trucker Dump Slack. slap member. Really?